The transit window closed behind us at 0312 ship time, and for a moment the bridge was perfectly still. Then Installa Vorath filled the forward viewport, and nobody said anything at all. I had built the target package for this station, spent 11 months on it alone, cross-referencing intercepts, stitching together the fragments our forward scouts had pulled from the debris fields at Cathara Junction and Outpost Duval, and the 7 other frontier engagements, where our people had died in numbers that didn't make sense. I knew the station's outer ring diameter to within 40 meters. I knew which module housed the primary archive, and which housed the fabrication bays, and which held the 17 synthetic intelligence cores that the Vethrak Directorate referred to, in their own operational logs, as the Project Solve oversight nodes. I had translated those logs myself. I had read every line. None of that prepared me for the size of it. Commander Rhea Solon stood at the forward console without touching it, hands at her sides, looking at the station the way a person looks at something they have waited a very long time to see. She was 51 years old. She had been a junior logistics officer at Outpost Duval when the sensor anomalies started. She had filed the first incident report that anyone above her pay grade ignored. "Iron Meridian actual," she said, into the open fleet channel. "All wings confirm transit." The replies came in sequence. 780 ships, spread across 4 transit corridors, checking in one after the other in the flat. Procedural cadence of people who have been patient for a very long time. I had read the Directorate's operational logs from the beginning, all 19 years of them. They had started small. Passive sensor arrays, embedded in the debris fields our garrison forces used for cover during the Cathara skirmishes. The arrays recorded everything: movement, response time, coordination patterns, the precise interval between a human soldier taking incoming fire and returning it, the specific frequency at which human combatants communicated under stress, the particular way a human unit reorganized after losing its command element. The Directorate called it phenotype mapping. They were building a model of how humans fight. They were very thorough. The arrays recorded our dead too, not incidentally. Specifically, the operational logs used a term I had to look up: terminal event optimization. It meant they had introduced variables into the engagements. Not enough to trigger recognition, not enough for any single field commander to see a pattern in the chaos of a firefight. Just enough to produce deaths at intervals that generated useful data points. Useful for them. 4,112 soldiers across 9 frontier engagements over 11 years. The Directorate's logs noted each one as a calibration event, cataloged by engagement, by unit designation, by the specific reflex signature the death had produced in the surrounding human combatants. They had names in the Directorate's archive, not the soldiers' names. The Directorate hadn't cared about those. They had acquisition codes, CE001 through CE4112, each one tagged with a data harvest yield rating. I had spent 6 months matching the acquisition codes to the casualty manifests. That was my job in the final year before the Meridian launched. I had a list. I knew what CE0447 had been. Corporal Tasha Veni, age 23, 14th Frontier Garrison, died in the second Cathara engagement during what the official report called concentrated enemy fire. She had a harvest yield rating of 7.4 out of 10. The log noted that her response to the terminal event had produced exceptional data on human small unit cohesion breakdown under stress. I had read that line approximately 40 times. I knew what it felt like now. It felt like nothing. That was the strange part. After the 40th time, it stopped feeling like anything at all, and what replaced it was not grief and not rage. It was something quieter and more complete. It felt like clarity. They had taken 19 years and 4,000 dead and built what they called the Vorath platform, a xenocide engine calibrated specifically to human biology, human combat doctrine, human communication frequencies, and the particular psychological thresholds the Directorate had mapped across 11 years of manufactured engagements. It was, by their own assessment, the most precisely human-killing device ever constructed. The operational log entry on its completion read, Project Solve, optimization complete, human phenotype fully resolved. They had brought it online 6 months before we found the archive. The Meridian had launched 4 months after that. "Target package is live," said the tactical officer to my left. Her name was Ensign Davin Koss. She was 24 years old, which meant she had been 13 when the Directorate began manufacturing calibration events out of our people. I watched her hand on the console, and it was completely steady. "Begin sequential," Commander Solan said. The Iron Meridian was not a fleet built for a single engagement. It had been designed for a process. Methodical, sequential, total. 31 Vethrak Directorate installations, across 4 systems, logged and targeted, and assigned to specific wing elements in a destruction sequence that would take 11 days to complete. Installa Vorath was the beginning, not because it was the largest. It wasn't. But because it housed the primary archive, and we had made a decision about the archive. The decision was this: we would not erase it. We would broadcast it. The Directorate had spent 19 years recording us. They had logged every death, every reflex pattern, every calibration event, every optimization yield. They had reduced 4,000 people to data points in a machine built to kill the rest of us. We were going to put that record on every open galactic frequency we could reach, in the Directorate's own format, with the Directorate's own acquisition codes, alongside the names. All 4,112 names. It took the Iron Meridian's first wing elements 47 minutes to breach the outer ring of Installa Vorath and reach the archive module. The Directorate's synthetic cores attempted 3 separate countermeasures. The after-action reports would describe each one in detail. From the bridge of the Heron's Point, I watched their signatures flare and die on the tactical display, and Commander Solan did not alter her expression, because there was nothing to alter. We had spent 4 months preparing for what they would do. The Directorate had spent 19 years studying how humans fight, and in doing so they had written us a complete manual on how they thought. That was the thing they had not accounted for. A machine that optimizes does not expect to be read. At 0611 ship time, the archive came online on the broadcast frequency. I had written the transmission header myself. It began with the Directorate's own project designation, Project Solve, Installa Vorath Primary Archive, 19-year phenotype harvest record, and then it listed the acquisition codes in sequence, CE001 through CE4112, and beside each acquisition code, the name. The Meridian's communications officer, Lieutenant Hava Nore, read the first 40 names aloud on the bridge channel. Then she stopped. Not because the list was too long, because it wasn't a performance, because the names were going out on every frequency we could reach, and they didn't need her voice to carry them. CE0001. Staff Sergeant Rono Alves, 3rd Frontier Garrison, Cathara Junction, 11 years ago. CE0002. Private Dara Mean, 3rd Frontier Garrison, Cathara Junction, 11 years ago. CE0003 through CE4112. The rest of them, all of them. The Vorath platform died in the 2nd hour of the operation. Wing 7 reached it in Installa Vorath's fabrication bay, a structure the Directorate's own logs described as the culmination of the Project Solve optimization sequence, which was their way of saying the thing they had killed 4,000 of our people to build. The breach team's after-action note was 3 words long: platform, destroyed, confirmed. I read it on the tactical display and felt nothing move in my chest. The clarity had been there since the 40th time I'd read the line about Corporal Tasha Vene's harvest yield rating. It did not change when the platform died. We had 11 days and 30 more installations ahead of us. The Meridian ran them in sequence, the way a ledger is closed, line by line, with nothing skipped. Each installation fell in the order we had assigned it. Each one confirmed destroyed before the next element moved, because we were not in a hurry, and we had not come here in anger. We had come here because the Directorate had run 19 years of calculations and arrived at a specific answer, and we had come to demonstrate that the answer was wrong. The answer they had arrived at was that humans were a solved problem. On the 11th day, the Iron Meridian confirmed the destruction of the 31st and final Directorate installation. Commander Solan filed the completion report in the flat procedural language that military records require. Wing elements had been dispatched. Targets had been engaged, targets had been destroyed, All elements were accounted for. No Vethrak Directorate installation remained operational within the survey corridor. She read it back once, made one correction to a grid reference and submitted it. I sat at my station on the bridge of the Heron's Point, and I looked at the transmission log. 4,112 names, still going out on the broadcast frequencies, in the Directorate's own format, to every receiver in range. CE001 through CE4112. Rono Alves. Dara Min. Tasha Vene. Yield rating 7.4, whose death had been optimized for data quality by a machine that had spent 11 years deciding she was a calibration event. The Directorate had studied us for 19 years and concluded that we were solvable. They were wrong about what we were. They were wrong about what we would do. They were wrong in the end about the only variable that had ever mattered: what it means to be studied by the people you are trying to kill. We are not data points. We have been paying attention.